Hello peoples of the internet, today we are racing some more vehicles down the hill. Although with this being Weird and Wonderful Week, they're not really cars. First of all, we have the Eolus, or however you say that, lightweight flying trike thing. Yes, I decided to drive a trike which is supposed to fly through the air down a hill, because I'm so intelligent. In all honesty, it wasn't as bad as you might expect. It had its fair few problems if you came to meet a sign or went too close to a tree and got your kite caught on it, but overall it was reasonable. I had to massively restrict my speed though, because if I didn't, it would end up all over the place in much the same way the Pigeon would. Only this would lift the front wheel because it doesn't want to stay on the ground. It was never made to do these kinds of speeds on the ground. I think I might have got something like 85 kilometers per hour at the best part of it, but I then had to brake immediately to try and avoid damage. And these cars don't always take nicely to it when you brake really hard from high speed. I mean, nothing does that I've tested here as of yet. If you brake too hard, too fast, something will go wrong whichever vehicle you're in, let alone if you're in a dangerous flying trike. All being said and done though, I did get it to the end, just by being a bit careful to avoid the trees and such, and generally taking really smooth, slow lines. And the front wheel flew off, but not much else went wrong with it because it's got a massive kite on, so it couldn't have a dramatically sudden drop like some other cars do when you jump them up the leap thingy at the end. So not much to say there. On to the next vehicle. The Cannon. Perhaps the only vehicle I'm more likely to fall asleep driving than I am to crash. The problem is, the Cannon actually has enough power, but it's throttled to about 4 or 4.1 miles per hour, which means getting down the hill takes its time, which is a bit annoying. And it also has rear wheel steering, which doesn't really matter, but the way it uses it makes it understeer quite a lot around the early corners, taking speed off it. There's also no suspension and no wheel brakes, as with the Eolus, which I can't pronounce. Anyway, it had only the handbrake, but it didn't even have a button handbrake, so I couldn't use the spacebar on my old keyboard like I could with the Eolus. All in all, it wasn't too hard to get a good one down with this. The real problem I found was if you got it onto the wall, it would stick there, and you would have to actually drive it to the end of the wall to get it off. Hence why I'm going so slowly around some of these corners and I still get it stuck. I could turn out, but it would actually take longer to try and get off the wall than it would just to ride along the wall. And the bumps were never really a problem because despite having no suspension, it was going so slow it would never matter. So yeah, it's a decent vehicle to drive, but it just takes so long, and the interior view is dreadful because you're sitting inside a Cannon. I mean, I did later on in this one get some racing lines down to try and get as much speed as possible, but I just spent so long racing on the straights, and not like racing in a turbo kind of way, actually waiting to get to the end of a straight, because it's so slow. I mean, that's why I did it, because, you know, it's Weird and Wonderful Week. Why not take something that's so weird, so unusual, something that you would never actually drive on the road in real life? I mean, yeah, why not? I'm guessing the reason it goes 4 miles per hour is because it's the equivalent of 1 to 4 people pushing it along in real life. So I might as well time a walker down this hill. Nah, someone walking down the hill would be slower, but it's so slow. I can't emphasize it enough. You can watch this video now, but when you actually have to drive it down the hill, it gets so boring. And driving it again is not a very motivating thing. Sorry, it's not a very motivating thing just because you have to wait so long to get down the hill. It did a better time than I thought it would, given that it's throttled to 4 miles per hour, and because you only crossed the line at 4 miles per hour, there wasn't much damage done to it either. Also, I think you can drive it underwater, which is handy. But yeah, an interesting vehicle, but never one you would actually race. Also, the wheels are made of wood, but that doesn't matter because I'm going so slow. On to the next vehicle. Now, here we have something that looks like a roamer, that has a big body like the roamer, but I'm struggling to find ways it's like a roamer because it really isn't. It's a trike, or possibly the D-bird roamer. I'll call it the trike for the purposes of this video. And it's got a V8 over front wheels, but it's got one front wheel and rear wheel drive. And it's basically a giant pigeon. That's the best way I can sum it up. Basically a giant pigeon estate, even in this case. And it has all the problems that you would associate with that. Tipping on its side because it wants to be a motorbike, getting all wobbly and putting the front wheel under too much pressure when you brake hard, as you will see in this clip where we roll it here. And yeah, that's not really what you want to happen in a four-wheeled car. That probably wouldn't happen because you've got two suspension components to deal with it. And yeah, we're making it down the hill. I tried to get a faster lap without faster time without a roll, but that failed badly. I couldn't do it. I mean, it went wrong too easily. So this is what we've got: a lap with a roll in it. Why do I keep saying lap? It's not a track with laps. I'm just being foolish. So it was okay to drive, other than that it tipped over on its front wheel, and it actually had anti-lock brakes, which many cars that have been around here didn't have, which was handy. And when I got it to the end, I think I broke the rear suspension, but it still drove. The front wheel was surprisingly resilient on this. I remember on the Pigeon that vehicle was quite resilient, but the front wheel would always be the first thing to go on that. The front wheel on this was surprisingly sturdy, given where it had to go through. And I also believe I went over some rocks, just to flash back to that, because if that was a four-wheeled car, it would probably have killed the powertrain or something, but being three-wheeled, it could just go over that rock. That was pretty handy. And yeah, on to the next vehicle, I say. So, this week, because I'm such a good sport, we actually have another car than the usual three that we would do. And this, as you may have noticed already, is the Nardelli crash cart. The way it handles is best described as a rear-wheel drive Covet, and all that would entail. It's also got an open differential, whereas the Covet had a limited slip differential. And it's overall quite a nice car to drive, but get it angry and it will throw you off the track. Drive it into a wall too hard and one of the wheels will break. That was the main problem with it. You make a small mistake and the wheel will just snap off, meaning you'll have either no steering or no acceleration if one of the wheels in the air, thanks to the open differential. And The springs were a bit strange on this. Suspension was a bit strange on this because you could go over bumps and it would filter them out really nicely. However, if you went over a bump that was a bit too hard, it would break the wheel off. It was a very, very strange line though between where it broke and where it didn't break. Like, you do one bump, you go over one bump, it could break, it could not break. It was a bit strange. Also, this is an older lap because my laptop got angry and decided it didn't want to record the last lap because it doesn't like me or something. So this is an older lap. I do still get to the bottom though, it's just a bit slower and a few more mistakes like that one. It was a bit slower than I thought it would be when it got to the end, and as I've said before, the wheels broke, but that was all that could really go wrong with it. It's a chassis. Also, it struggled a bit at high speed, I'll just throw that in there. You take it over like 80 miles per hour and it really begins to lose control because it's got no aerodynamics. So, with all being said and done, goodbye until another day.